All right, everybody. We got another very special guest for y'all. I want everybody to welcome to the show, Rylend Grant. Welcome, Rylend.
How you doing? Thanks for having me.
Thank you for showing up. I'm doing great. How are you?
Excellent. New book dropped. 2 days ago now, as we're recording this, and the reviews are effusive and positive, and it's selling well. And so I'm in a good place. I'm in a good mood. People are reading my stuff, and that's always when you feel best, I guess.
Yeah, so I guess we could start right there. Source Point Press just released Suicide Jockeys from yours truly, and what's the book about?
So Suicide Jockeys is tokusatsu for the rabid American action movie audience. Tokusatsu, for the uninitiated, is the Japanese sci-fi genre that includes things like the Power Rangers, Super Sentai, those sort of goofy action joints that come out of Japan. But it also includes kaiju fare like Godzilla. And so, ours is like a very American take on tokusatsu in a nutshell. We pitch it as kind of Fast and the Furious meets Voltron, but with kind of an extra dollop of heart and soul. And so it's a lot of fun. It's my fifth book. It's the most fun I think I've ever had putting something together. So it's kind of a batshit Howl at the Moon, raucous affair. So if you like that sort of thing, you like that sort of thing.
Was this a book that you put together and pitched to Source Point, or was this at one point like a Kickstarter? How'd this come about?
No, what tends to happen, I mean, with the creator-owned stuff, I think the best thing you can do with a creator-owned book generally is just kind of put the book together yourself. This is the book I want to make, and then you take it to a good company like Source Point, and it is what it is. And if it's good, they will love you for it. And if it's not, then you're not going to clear their bar. So this was something I kind of put together on my own and just went to Source Point. Like I had been circling the folks at Source Point for a while. I think I met them in 2019 at the Ringo Awards. My first book, Aberrant, which is kind of a political action thriller, kind of a love letter to 70s paranoid spy thrillers. But that was nominated that year for 2 Ringo Awards. We won another one, and I was sitting at a table with my then publisher, and we're having a pretty good time. But the table next to us was just this rockin' fucking party, I mean, they were just having like the greatest time I've ever seen like 10 people have. And I was like, I want to be at that table. And so kind of the awards wrapped up, and I sort of made my way over and introduced myself, and kind of hit it off with a couple of people over there, Josh and Travis and some others, and had creator friends that had books over there that had great things to say about them. Like we kind of hit it off, and it was a mutual love affair, and it wasn't really a matter of like if I was going to do a book with them, but when. And I think that they're it's not to say that I won't do things elsewhere, but I very much kind of consider Source Point my comic home right now. So it's nice to kind of have a place that, like a safe haven, a place where you can take things, and they're going to get it, and that they're going to treat you right with it. So
yeah, I mean, Source Point is a publisher I'm aware of, but haven't done a whole lot with. How are they to work with?
They're great. I mean, it's a very solid like mid-tier publisher, and they're known as tastemakers. Among I run with a lot of creators, obviously, and in the creator community, they're known as tastemakers. I mean, it's a weird comparison to make, I think, because of the recent history with Harvey Weinstein and everything. But they remind me of like early 90s Miramax, where Miramax is a young company where they're kind of they're just finding really interesting, challenging, oftentimes young voices to kind of put in front of people. They're taking chances that some other publishers wouldn't, and I think that has been great. It's been great for them, certainly from a financial and from a success standpoint, but it's also been great for the comics community at large. Creators who are doing challenging things now they have a place to take them, and And it's good to have variety out there, and good to have people who kind of get it intellectually. And so yeah, I'm happy. It's great to kind of have, I feel like you can end up in these publishing situations where you feel like it's adversarial, and this has been the polar opposite of that. So we're all doing one big choreographed dance and smiling, so.
Yeah, every industry needs that Miramax style company, because otherwise stuff just gets kind of stale. I actually feel like movies is kind of getting to that realm. At least as an outsider who's not like the biggest movie buff in the world. But yeah, it's good to hear that they're cool to work with.
Well, I mean, you're talking to the right guy in terms of the movie stuff. I mean, so my, comics comics are something I do in my spare time. I mean, to say it's a hobby is kind of, that's an understatement at this point. It's almost, it's kind of my part-time job that I do alongside my full-time job. But my full-time job, I mean, for the last, 15 plus years now, I've been paid to write, movies and TV shows. And so, I've written for J.J. Abrams and Ridley Scott and Luc Besson and John Woo and Justin Lin and folks like that. I write mostly big poppy action movies and actually, I mean, I saw Pulp Fiction when I was young, and I saw that and I'm like, my mind was fucking blown. It was so challenging and so different from anything I'd ever seen. I was like, I want to do that. And and so cut 2 years later, I moved out to Los Angeles, and I went to the American Film Institute Conservatory, AFI, where David Lynch went and Darren Aronofsky, and I got my kind of snooty, challenging director education. But by the time I got spit out into the job market, quote unquote, they had kind of stopped making Pulp Fiction, right? And so I had a few years where I was kind of really letting loose, but mostly got kind of pigeonholed into kind of writing, big poppy Hollywood fare. And I don't want to sound like, the idiot who's like complaining about getting to write movies. And I don't want to sound like the snooty asshole, because give me Die Hard, give me 48 Hours, give me fucking, give me Armageddon, give me Con Air, give me those any day of the week. I love those movies, and entertaining people is awesome and incredible. But there was this kind of other, challenging artistic side that really wasn't being nourished a lot doing that. And it's gotten much worse over the last like 1, 2, 3, 5 years. Right now we're in this place where Hollywood makes about 5 different kinds of movies, and they want them written a certain way. And I got really good at doing that. I can kind of do it in my sleep. I mean, those movies bought my house, right? So again, it's hard to complain, but after like a dozen years of doing that, like I was sort of like creatively bankrupt, and so it was like I was kind of stuck in the mud. I wasn't really happy with what I was doing, and worse than that, like my writing got stale and awful. And so after about 12 years, I was like, man, I don't know if I have another 12 years of this in me. You know what I'm saying? And it's not even like I'm going to walk away. Like I might get myself fired on the next one because I'm fucking half-assing this, because I'm not all in. And so like, to cut to it, comics saved my life. It was right around that time that I made the pivot where, okay, well, I need a creative outlet, and like a truly creative outlet. And so the beauty of comics is like you can do anything. You can tell any kind of story. You can tell it any way, and as long as it's good, you will find an audience for it. It will be celebrated. Like this is a medium that embraces that stuff. And so when I moved into comics, I sort of made I made a commitment that like the formulas were going out the window. That I was going to double down on experimental elements and playing with structure, telling stories out of order, unreliable narrators. The second issue of Banjax is told from the point of view. Banjax is my second book. It was dark superhero noir, available in fine comic shops everywhere. But the second issue is told from the point of view of a man who hasn't slept in 7 days, and it's literally driving him mad. And so he starts to like hallucinate, see things. And so you don't know if what he's seeing is real or not. And this whole issue plays out through this point of view, and in the end you're kind of not given any answers. You're left to kind of decide for yourself, okay, well, how much of this was real and how much of it wasn't, and how much does that matter even. Banjax is just like, in a nutshell, it's a Batman and Robin story. Batman kind of goes crazy, and Robin has to bring him back in, right? But Robin's not remotely up to it, and so the odd issues are told from the Batman's point of view. The even issues are told from the Robin's point of view, and it's two very different guys telling the same story, and it's their own very prejudiced, slanted version of that story. And again, you're given no definitive answers in the end, so you hear both sides, and you are left in the end to decide, okay, well, what actually happened and what is actually happening. And so, I mean, for me, it was like, these were always the stories that spoke to me, and the stuff that I love just about not just comics or movies, but storytelling in general. And so it was amazing to have this playground. And so this is how I've always attacked, telling these comic stories. And I was very much celebrated for it, in comics. I mean, my first comic book, I was nominated. It was nominated for best single issue at the Ringo Awards, and then I was nominated for best writer alongside like Jeff Lemire, and Scott Snyder, and Brian K. Vaughan. And it was me and like four first ballot Hall of Famers, and people were like, "Who the fuck is this guy?" But it was because I was, I was taking these home run shots, and sometimes they cleared the fence and sometimes I didn't, but like people noticed. And the irony of it, man, is that it started to kind of trickle into my film work, and it revitalized me there completely too. I mean, I got comics had reinvigorated me. Things were going well there, and then I got hired to write like another heist joint, and I've written 3, 4, 5 heist joints in my life in Hollywood, and they're all the same. And every heist movie is exactly the same. And every room you walk into in Hollywood, they have 2 heist movies in development, and they're all the same, and none of them get made because they're all the same. And so I'm like, okay, well, I can write that heist movie. Again, I can do it in my sleep. I know I can just phone it in and I can collect my paycheck. Or I can do myself and I can do them, hopefully, a favor. And all of this stuff that I'm doing in comics that is like getting this attention and is making me feel alive again. What if I just did that in this, in this heist thing? And I didn't tell them I was going to do it. I just went off and wrote it. And again, unreliable narrators, playing with structure, all of this stuff, and all of this sort of, structural headbutting and stuff like that. And I just turned it in, and it took them a little longer than it should have to read it and process it. And so I was a little bit worried, like, do they think I'm insane? And so finally we get on this notes call, and there are way too many people on the notes call, which doesn't happen. Usually you're talking to one person, 2 people, and there are like, 6 people on this thing. And so we all get in this proverbial room, and, they're like, we read it. And there's this long pause, and I'm like, yeah, I'm getting fired. And they're like, we love it. All this crazy shit that you're doing, go back, do more of it, double down on it. We want more of this and more of this. And oh yeah, what if you did this too? Like, what if we made it really crazy? And so, cut to, I don't know, a year later, and that thing, we just set that up it's a TV series at Lionsgate right now. And, we have, David Diggs from Hamilton and Snowpiercer, and Raphael Casal from the Blind Spotting, and Emmy Raver from the Umbrella Academy. We have like 3 heavyweight stars attached to it already, and it's like, it's all because of comics. So comics, I was pointed off a cliff with the pedal to the floor, and comics kind of pulled me from the brink. So I owe a lot to comics.
So is there any part of you that, like, obviously you said you had this creative outlet now in comics where you kind of do it and be on the side, but is there any part of you it's like, I have this really cool idea for a movie, what if I just put it in this comic and see if it gets recognized over here? Or are you strictly just like, no, like, I'm doing comics for the sake of comics?
No, I mean, it's I think that the 2 mediums now are hopelessly intertwined. I mean, it's I wrote Aberrant, my first book. I wrote it as a comic book. I never wasn't really thinking past, okay, well, somebody gave me a shot at comics, and so I'm going to do this comic book. And it's a comic book story. I mean, it's it is kind of like a paranoid thriller, but it takes place in a world where superpowered individuals exist, and it's not really about the superpowered individuals as much as it's about what everyone else is doing. Like how would our military, how would our geopolitics necessarily change if people with superpowers were around? Um, and so again, that's a comic book story, right? I mean, that's, if I wrote that as a movie, people would laugh at me. All that said, the moment it was a comic book, I think it was 2 weeks before the second issue hit newsstands. It was optioned for television by Tony Krantz, and so we're doing that for TV also. And people often described Aberrant, this book, as 24 with superheroes, and Tony Krantz was the guy that produced 24 and also produced like Felicity and Mulholland Drive for David Lynch, and he's doing Wu Assassins at Netflix now, so he does big action fare. But so they're hopelessly intertwined. I mean, the other thing is, like my business for at least the last 8 years, if not the last 10 years, I've been in Hollywood, has been creating IP and setting up IP. Um, so when I first started writing in Hollywood, the rules were you wrote a spec script. It means nobody's paying you to write it. You write it on your own. If your script is good, it's sold, right? That was just what happened. And I did that for a couple of years. But then the financial crisis happened at the same time the writer strike happened. And Hollywood kind of used that as an excuse to remake the way they do business completely. All of the independent money dried up, and the independent film movement kind of moved on to television and mutated. And so the movie business was really weird. And that was when, overnight, the studios are making about a third as many movies as they were yesterday, right? And fewer opportunities, but like original ideas lost their luster. People were not buying them. So we enter this age of IP, intellectual property, meaning that like everything you see has to be based on something, right? It has to be a book, a video game, a comic book, whatever. And we're still in this fucking age, right? And so I had a few lean years there, writing spec scripts and trying to sell them and not selling them, and wondering why God hates me and all that stuff. And so finally, like, again, this was almost left the business time one, as opposed to almost left the business time two, which I already laid out for you in excruciating detail. But so finally it's like, okay, well, I mean, because I went to a world-class film school. The American Film Institute is like the best place in the world to study directing and cinematography, and you have really brilliant fucking people there. But most everyone I went to film school with, like, they're whatever, back in their proverbial like Pennsylvania selling fucking insurance with their dad or something now, because like crazy times and they didn't adapt. And so I was on the precipice. But I finally get struck by a lightning bolt at some point, and it's like, okay, well, if Hollywood wants IP, why don't I give them IP? And so I took an idea that I knew I couldn't sell as a spec, and I knew I couldn't sell it as a pitch or anything like that. And instead of wasting a year of my life like cranking out a spec that was never going to sell, I wrote it as a short story, and I got the short story published. And then, like, almost overnight, we had a bidding war on it. We had Justin Lin on one side, coming off of the Fast 6 opening, which at that point, and may still be, was like the largest summer opening in Universal history. And then we had Brett Ratner and Robert De Niro on the other side, in this kind of bidding war over this thing. And there were a lot of other people in the fray, like Tyler Perry made an offer, which is kind of funny in hindsight, what that would have looked like.
Was he going to have Medea?
Yeah, might. He plays every role, in this gritty action movie. And so we ended up selling this to Justin Lin, like, at a great time, and in a really kind of high profile situation. And then my management, my agents, like, they thought it was a fluke. Okay, well, we're never going to do this again. And I'm like, no, this is where the business is headed. And short and sweet, like, I set out to prove them wrong, and I've done it with short stories like I don't know, 8 more times since then, maybe, and have all my friends setting up short stories now. Sean Lewis, who just wrote Kingspawn, um, is a good friend of mine. Like we were at NYU together when we were 19, and I I downloaded him on the short story thing years ago, and now when he sold 5 of them himself, and so long-winded way of saying like you can't divorce any of this stuff from the film business. Like these things are hopelessly intertwined, and so like here's the thing: is like more than anything, like when a young writer comes up to me and says like, what's your what's your one piece of advice for a would-be writer or whatever, a would-be screenwriter, and I'm like, well, that's the thing, is like you can't just be a screenwriter, you can't just be a novelist, you can't just be a comic book creator. If you do that, like you are almost certainly doomed to failure and doomed to like going back to Pennsylvania to sell insurance with your dad, right? So like you have to be a storyteller, right? And so wherever the opportunity presents itself, just wherever you find a hole, like jam a peg into it. You know what I'm saying? And if you have a square peg and that's a round hole, like get the fucking whittling knife out. And so that's the thing, is like I just had to become a writer, and so that meant writing fiction, and that meant writing comic books, and that meant doing any number of things, and just telling stories. If there's an opportunity, find a way to tell a story that's appropriate to that medium. I mean, the problem with this is that there are way too many failed screenwriters who like want to turn their shitty failed movies into graphic novels, and they're trying to jam that square peg into a round hole without getting the whittling knife out,
Yeah.
or whatever. And it goes horribly wrong, and they give like everyone else who does this, who straddles these lines, a bad name. But there is an artful and appropriate way to do it. And it's just like, here's the thing, is like, we just talked about it. Like there is so little opportunity in the film business right now, that you have to make other opportunities. You can't wait for someone in the film business to tell you it's okay to tell your story. If they will not open the door for you, then find another door that you can kick your way through. And so yeah, it's like I have 1,001 fucking stories in my head that need to get out. And if I waited for the film business, like I'd maybe tell 5 of them before I died. I mean, the problem with the film business too is like you'll get paid to write movies, and then they don't get made, and someone else owns them, and they end up dying on a fucking shelf without anyone seeing them, and that's devastating. It's like you're watching a child die or something like that. And if it's a short story first, if it's a comic book first, like the world sees it, it's out there. Like I have a 4-year-old daughter. Like 50 years from now, she can go on whatever the equivalent of Amazon is then, and buy Suicide Jockeys, right? So there's like an immortality in that, rather than Suicide Jockeys dying, in a box, at the in the basement of Universal or something like that, or on a hard drive somewhere. It's so yeah. I mean, that's I know that's a long and complicated answer, but it's more complex, I think, than anybody realizes.
Yeah, you see, I want not going to name names, but I know of a few companies that strictly came out of people who I want to make a movie. Oh, let's make a comic book instead, and then someone will notice it. And that, like you said, that gives some people a bad name. Sometimes those are still really good. I mean, that's just reality, but
A good story is a good story, and like comics are a visual medium. I mean, it's like it's I mean, I do a lot of how-to panels at cons, but I also do them at schools and stuff like that. And I just gathered up 4 or 5 creators who have really great careers in both the film business and the comics business, right? And we did a big panel, a big thing for the LA Film School. It was the title of the panel was "Why You Should Be Working in Comics," because and the basic thesis is there's not enough opportunity in the film business, and you are getting a world-class visual storytelling education at the LA Film School, and there is a shit ton of opportunity in comics right now, and you have the perfect skill set in which to tell a story in the comic medium. I mean, there are adjustments to be made, and there are things that you need to know, and you know, it is not good business just to. I mean, comic books cost a lot of money. You know what I'm saying? Like
Hmm.
this, this is, at the minimum, this is 15 grand in art and like hundreds of hours of your time. So if this is just a brochure for your movie, like, you're doing it wrong. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Like, this was nominated for 4 Ringo Awards, including Best Series. Next to Bitterroot and Something's Killing the Children. Like, I made a fucking comic book. You know what I'm saying? And if somebody in Hollywood also says like, oh, you know what, this would be a badass movie, then great. But I set out to make a goddamn comic book, and I think I did a
Yeah.
pretty damn good job. And so, if that is your attitude, you will not and you cannot fail. If you have another attitude, like, again, like, get used to selling insurance.
So let me ask you this, because it's been a conversation in our industry for a few weeks. I mean, for years and years, but for the past like month or so, it's really broken out. How is Hollywood with the IP ownership? Like, if you write the short story that becomes the next Fast and the Furious, are you doing good, or how do they are they still doing kind of the same stuff that, like, what's happening to Brubaker with Winter Soldier? Or like, here's a couple $100, go fuck off.
Well, yeah, I mean, that varies from, from thing to thing. I mean, the problem is, like, Brubaker didn't invent Captain America, right?
Yeah.
So that is a very different situation than if I went to Hollywood with Banjax, right?
Hmm.
And yeah, I mean, those Marvel deals are criminal in my opinion, in my humble opinion. Uh, but yeah, I mean, if you generate your own IP and you go and you set it up, you're going to be doing pretty well. I mean, you'll get so the first thing that's going to happen is you'll get it optioned, right? Um, and your option money depends on how many things you've optioned before, because your rate goes up most every time. It also depends on how competitive the situation is. If one company has seen your book and they want to option it, who knows what you'll get. I mean, I have. There are times, even as a professional, where I've optioned things for $1 because it was going to lead to more opportunity, right?
Hmm.
Um, there are times where it's not competitive and it's $10,000, but if 2 people or 3 people really want the property, you know what I'm saying? It can be a name your price situation. But usually there's there you get a glass of option money, and then it gets developed. It gets written into a script or whatever. And for me, I'm a working professional in the film business. I'm a working screenwriter, so where I make most of my money is they pay me to write the script or to create the
Hmm.
TV show, right? And so there is the money there. If you are a comic book creator who has never worked in Hollywood or whatever, what is most likely going to happen is you're going to option it. They're going to bring in a seasoned screenwriter, and they're going to write the script, right? That's usually how it's going to work. So again, you get a glass of option money, and then if and when the thing gets made, they actually have to purchase the property outright, and then that ends up being a bucket of purchase money, or a garbage can full of purchase money, or a dumpster full of purchase money, depending on, again, the scale of the thing and how many times you've done this before and stuff like that. So it's there are vultures and people who will take advantage of others everywhere, and so it also depends on the quality of person you're dealing with. You're not going to get outright fucked by a studio.
Hmm.
um some guy working out of his garage or something like that. Uh um who knows. There are plenty of those guys. So yeah, it's all over the board. I mean, all that said too, it's like, you know, get something made, right? and then when you're the guy or you're the gal that did this, that became a TV show or a movie, then it opens up 100 doors for you. So you got to think in terms of like money is good, obviously, because you can use it to exchange for goods and services, but like
Mhm.
there are things that are more valuable. There is like career capital and an opportunity that comes with like with having some cachet, right? Having a body of work, having usually what happens is like if you sell a property and then that becomes like the next hot AMC TV show, then like every other thing that you've ever put your name on is then going to sell, and it's going to sell for a lot of money, right? So if you
Yeah.
didn't make your money off that first property, you are going to make money on these other properties that maybe aren't as good or whatever because of this other property. So it's think of it as a marathon and not like a sprint. Don't think of it in terms of like 100 meters at a time. Think of it as like 26 plus miles, whatever the fuck a marathon is. But
Yeah. Yeah, someone out there has the rights to Battle Pope just because they're like, wait, the Walking Dead guy wrote that?
yeah. No, I guarantee it. Yeah. Maybe we could do it for animation. Maybe um
Fuck it, the boys worked. Why can't Battle Pope work?
yeah, no shit.
So you made a little comment there that made me think. So, once again, you're all about spreading out and trying to tell as many stories as possible. Marvel comes a knocking, and they say, we want you for Chip's done with Daredevil. We want you in Daredevil. Are you in, or?
Yeah. I'm totally in. I mean, I'm yeah, it would be fun. And Daredevil's a great character. I mean, it's here's the thing: is like I usually that is that's a very interesting way to ask that question, because usually what I get is like who's the character you always wanted to write, and they really want me to say. Oh, I don't know. Maybe Moon Knight would be nice. I got a good Moon Knight. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what they want to hear. But like, but that's not how I would answer that question. Like I mean, if you asked me that question, and it took me a while to find the answer to that question, and after I answered it with, I don't know, Knight would be nice. After I answered it that way about 5 times, I had to like hit the pause button and be like, what would I want to write in an ideal world? And of course, like I mean, yeah, Daredevil, of course, Daredevil. Like Daredevil's awesome. Or or fucking Batman, or you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But whatever. They ask you, you don't ask them or whatever. But I mean, to tell you the truth, it's like what would my dream thing be? Like if I could like wave a magic wand and like I want to write a Johnny Lawrence story. Like I want to write fucking Cobra Kai for IDW. Johnny Lawrence is my spirit animal. If IDW is listening right now, I would knock that out of the motherfucking park. Call me up. And that's that's the way I think is, I mean, I would love to do like an Axel Foley story, World of Beverly Hills Cop, comic book for somebody, I mean, these are these nostalgia fits I have from when I was a kid, and these worlds that I would love to explore. But yeah, I mean, it's in fact, I'm doing I already got hired on a write for hire. There's a company called Immortal Studios that's doing some really amazing wuxia comic books. They just kind of created a slate, and they have a lot of money behind them, and they're making some interesting moves, and it's all based on the creator, this guy Peter Shao. His father was one of the most prolific wuxia novelists in like the history of China. He wrote over like 200 books or something like that, and so it's all based on this trove of IP that he has and stuff like that. And so Peter's a great guy, and we got to know each other because we had mutual friends. And Peter finally asked me, "Hey, do you want to do one of these things?" And he found the exact right one for me. And so, wuxia is for the uninitiated again. Like wuxia is like the magical martial arts Shaolin kung fu genre. Like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon is like the most obvious example of it. And so I'm already doing a pretty interesting, kind of pretty challenging write for hire for those guys. So when Marvel comes a knocking, I'll be ready. Assuming I'm not running a fucking TV show or something like that, which is, a reasonable possibility at this point also. So, but Chris Cantwell does it, so maybe I'll ask him how he does it, and I'll figure out how to juggle both those things.
Yeah, he's kicking ass at it too.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah, he's awesome.
So yeah, I don't even know really where to go for here with you. So we talked about Abram, we talked about Banja X. I mean, you said you got the Wuxia stuff coming up. Is there anything else you got coming that you can talk about?
Not necessarily that I can talk about. I mean, I have when COVID hit, it was pencils down everywhere, right? And I had two books that were supposed to be announced by big publishers, and then COVID craziness, pencils down everywhere, and people started getting fired. I go from having daily contact with like 3 people at this company, and we're discussing release strategies and announcements and stuff like that, and then like overnight, I don't have a working email address there. And then it, and then it takes a while for people to get rehired and all that stuff. And so basically, I didn't put anything in a comic shop last year, but I had all of this material lying around, and so I ended up making the pivot to Kickstarter, and I sort of needed to do something. And there were guys like Charlie Stickney, who is now the co-publisher at Scout Comics, and he did a comic, sort of built his career on Kickstarter with a comic called White Ash. He did probably 6 Kickstarters for White Ash, and now he logs on and makes $60,000 in the blink of an eye on Kickstarter. And so he had been after me, like, look, there's an opportunity here on Kickstarter that you're not taking advantage of. And then when it was pencils down everywhere and nobody's taking phone calls and stuff like that, it's like, what do I do with all this stuff? And he's like, well, I mean, what happened was everybody held back from Kickstarter because they're like, oh, people don't have money now, nobody's gonna. But what the data showed at Kickstarter was, there are fewer comic projects on Kickstarter now than ever before, but there are just as many backers logging on every day looking for something to throw money at. They don't have anything to throw their money at, so they put out like an APB, like to creators, like, hey, come on, there's an opportunity. And so I took a couple of things off the shelf, and with Charlie's help and a couple other key people, I did 3 Kickstarters last year that ended up being pretty damn successful. And so I did a paranoid thriller set in the world of astral projection called The Jump, which people dug a lot. And then I did a Fargo-esque crime drama called The Peacekeepers. And it was a blast, man. I mean, it was, I will eventually, like Charlie did. I mean, Charlie kickstarted 5 issues of White Ash, and then he took them to Scout after that, and they had a very kind of storied and they had like a big bad run in comic shops also, and so that's probably the path I'll take with these. But there's amazing stuff going on on Kickstarter right now, and people should really be paying attention. It's like what I found is, like, I thought it was money, at first, and like, yeah, it's great to, again, like, to do a trade of a comic book, it can cost you $15,000 at art minimum, right? And so, like, so it's nice to be able to go somewhere and like make your budget back, right? So that is nice, not to have to, like, because I don't know about you, but I don't have $15,000 lining up under a mattress somewhere to throw at these things. So that was nice. Yeah, but more than anything, what I found is, like, there's just a rabid and engaged fan base there, and it's really like, it's like a fan base builder. It is a, like, ride or die fan finder. I was really impressed, and what you find is that there are people that pretty much exclusively buy their comics in a comic shop, and then there are people who, like, almost exclusively buy their comics on Kickstarter. And there's crossover, of course, but not nearly as much as you think. And so what I found is like, I mean, basically as a creator, you know, I mean, you're doing yourself, you're doing your project a disservice if you're not servicing, if you don't have like a foot in both, in both ponds. Um, and so, yeah, I mean, I became a convert, and like, I started singing the praises of Kickstarter, and it's like, there's a reason why the David F. Walkers, like, they do 2 Kickstarters every year, of course, he's going to do his Bitterroot stuff, and he's going to do his like really thoughtful historical stuff that gets released by a big publisher in a bookstore. But he's also going to do his like 2 Kickstarter comics every year, and I know why now. I mean, it's just it's interesting, and so I became this kind of I mean, over the last year, I became this like this preacher singing the praises of Kickstarter, and so I do a podcast, a comic slanted podcast. It's called The Writer's Block that I do with David Avalone, who's a great comic book writer himself. He co-created Drawing Blood with Kevin Eastman, and he writes all the Elvira comics over at Dynamite. We did this thing where COVID hits, and we were doing these online cons together, and so we were getting like a taste of what a normal comic creator life used to be. But what we were missing was like something called BarCon, which is like after a long day on the con floor, we creators get together, we go to the bar across the street, and we just shoot the shit for a couple hours, right? And so we didn't have that. We didn't have that outlet. And so Avalone and I created this podcast that's gone for over a year now, called The Writer's Block. And so it's he and I, and we get, whatever it is, 2, 3, 4 of our friends together, and we just roll camera and shoot the shit. And it starts out with a comics business, type, topic that we're talking on, and then it pretty quickly, like, violently veers off course, and we start arguing over who the best Star Trek captain is or whatever. But so what has no doubt happened because Avalone caught the Kickstarter bug also. I mean, he and Eastman funded both volumes of Drawing Blood on Kickstarter to the tune of like 120 grand every time or something like that, and then Dynamite took Elvira onto Kickstarter and made 120 grand, or maybe it was 200 grand or something like that because it's Elvira. I don't know, but like these absurd numbers, right? And so he and I have become the biggest Kickstarter proselytizers, and so we have these comic creators on, and I don't know, every third or fourth episode turns into like us trying to convince somebody to go to Kickstarter. And so we had, it was like 3 weeks ago, we had Rodney Barnes on, and we're talking Philadelphia, and we're talking, I mean, he's running the Lakers show on HBO now, and we're talking Lakers. And then he starts to mention, and then he mentions that he just went to MGM and he got the rights to Blackula. And so he is doing a Blackula comic himself. Like it was his shit growing up. He loved it.
That's awesome.
And now he is the voice of Blackula. It's his property, and he's releasing it on his own, his own imprints and all this stuff. And he's wondering what to do with it. And I'm like, okay, Rodney, like, this show has now become about me convincing you to do Kickstarter. And so, I don't know, I spent a half hour like talking Rodney into it, and you never know how this is going to land, but then, we finish up recording, and then about 15 minutes later, I get a like hastily thumbed out email from Rodney on his cell phone being like, "Yo, Kickstarter, what now?" he's all in. So Rodney is Rodney's catching the bug also. He's seen behind the curtain. He's seen what's possible. So yeah, I'm a big fan, and I will remain a big fan. And so yeah, I'm fighting this battle on 2 fronts now. I mean, I think there are the Kickstarter books, and there are the comic shop books, and then eventually the Kickstarter books become comic shop books, and yeah, so it's this business is changing so radically under our feet right now. Kind of like it was almost like this COVID shit like poured gasoline on the fire that was already raging. And we've aged 10 years as a business in like the last 18 months. So, I mean, I think that you're going to see a lot more people doing this stuff,
So first, you can tell your co-host thank you from me personally because of him and that book. Yeah. And the fact that I emailed Eastman when we were still pretty small. Yeah. and just like ranted about how much I love that book.
Mhm.
And Eastman's like, "Yeah, you want me to be on your podcast?" I was like,
Awesome.
"Kevin Eastman wants to come here and talk turtles with me. Let's do it." So he is responsible for one of the best moments of my life.
That's great.
But also, I want everyone out there to really listen to like the rant we just got, because this is the second week in a row I've gotten the same rant that came from the same person.
Okay.
That all originated from Charlie Stickney.
Oh, that's funny. Wow.
So obviously Charlie knows what he's talking about, everybody. So go pay attention to him.
Who was on here ranting about Charlie? You have Pepos on or something?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, Pepos had both Stickney and me, putting the screws to him on that. So, he got double barrels. Yeah.
He might have mentioned you. I remember he like shotgunned a bunch of names out at me, but Stickney was a big one, and I've talked to Stickney a few times. He's a good dude.
Charlie is the godfather of comic book Kickstarter. He's and he's a great guy, and he's one of my closest friends in the business, and he's very like altruistic, and he helps everyone as much as he can, and he's a saint. He's like a comic book saint, so we're all very thankful for Charlie.
Yeah, he's a great well of knowledge too. I've had times talking with him off recorder, I should say, and just great conversations. If you want to learn more about comics and the industry, like he's the man to talk to.
Yeah.
So, Rylend, we're getting close on time, so I don't want to keep you from your daughter. So let's go right back real quick to Suicide Jockeys. Available now. Give the pitch one more time for everybody.
So again, tokusatsu for the hardcore American action movie fan. Fast and the Furious meets Voltron in a way. And I guess what I didn't say is, we very much have that covered. So this was kind of co-conceived by me and this friend of mine, Brad Warner, who. So here's the thing. The Fast and the Furious part of it. One of my claims to fame is I have written in Hollywood for the directors of 6 of the 9 Fast and Furious movies. I've written big action movies for them, and so when I say Fast and the Furious, we very much have that part of it covered, right? I'm making sure that the American action movie fan is going to love this thing. When I say Voltron, when I say Tokusatsu, this guy Brad Warner, who is a pretty he's a prolific author himself. He's written. He writes about Zen, and he's written probably a dozen Zen books and sold hundreds of thousands of copies. But he's written this is Sit Down and Shut Up. He's also written this book Hardcore Zen, which is great, and I highly recommend them if you're interested in meditation or Zen or anything. But Brad, studied Zen in Japan, but he was there. He was working for a company called Zubaraya Productions, which was founded by the creator of Godzilla. But for decades they've made great tokusatsu fare, and they're best known for doing all the Ultraman stuff. Mm-hmm. And so Brad spent about a dozen years working in Japan as a producer, as an executive on Ultraman, and he's also kind of like a historian of all this shit. So while I'm making sure the action movie fan is getting his or hers, Brad is making sure that the tokusatsu fan has an authentic experience. So yeah, there's that, and then also it's about something. I mean, Brad and I know each other because the two of us happen to be ordained Soto Zen Buddhist monks. So Soto Zen is a Japanese sect, and this was kind of conceived. It came about while we were on Zen retreats in the mountains, and so the same big, hairy existential questions we would wrestle with. While we were off at a Zen retreat, who am I? What is this world? The fabric of the universe, space and time, all that stuff. We are wrestling with those questions in this book in like a very fun, heightened way. So it is bonkers, howl at the moon fun, but it is also like philosophically about something. It has heart, soul, and intellect. So it is challenging in that way. So yeah, hopefully you like a little side salad with your pizza or whatever.
And real quick, Source Point, do they offer digital comics of any sort?
Yeah, they do. I have an email. This is my first book with SourcePoint, and so I don't. I have a feeling they delay it for whatever reason. Maybe maybe they want to sell those physical copies and then it comes out later. But I have an email to them. I'm asking them, hey, when the hell did the digital copies come out? But yeah, I mean, if you go online now, like every SourcePoint book that was released in the past is available on Comixology. I just think they probably have a delay built in for business reasons, um,
Okay.
but you can get your hard copies at fine comic shops everywhere at sourcepointpress.com.
Which is the best place. And actually, I'm on sourcepointpress.com. You are sold out, sir.
Is the variant sold out also, or is it just the?
Oh no, the variant isn't sold out,
Yeah,
and the
yeah,
variant is phenomenal.
yeah. The variant is phenomenal. So I am famous now, or infamous, depending on how you look at it, for my bonkers, kind of crazy, twisted pop culture homage covers. So with Aberrant, we raised a lot of eyebrows. We did a Karate Kid cover that was written about a lot. We did a Coming to America cover. We did a Top Gun Playing with the Boys volleyball variant cover. With Banjax, we did a Rocky Four cover. We did a Gremlins cover that got a lot of attention, and so we're kind of continuing that here. So yeah, the variant for issue one is an homage to the original Roadhouse poster with Patrick Swayze, and so we've taken Patrick out of it. Um, we have put our protagonist in there, and we've of course messed with the language and made it about monster fighting and stuff like that. But yeah, we're getting a lot of props for the Roadhouse variant, and it's a damn handsome cover, I must say. So these were done. Our interior artist and the guy that does our A covers is a guy named David Leon Diaz, who is the guy who he drew Aberrant and he drew Peacekeepers, and now he's drawing this. The variant covers, all of our homage variant covers here are done by two Brazilian artists. Fabio Alves does the pencils and the inks, and then Edson Ferreira does the colors. And they were both nominated for Ringos for their work on Banjax. And they do the jump for me, and they're just they're lights out. They're just great fucking artists, and so they really knocked it out of the park. So Roadhouse is issue one. We did a take on a really amazing kind of iconic bullet cover for issue two. The issue three variant is another Top Gun variant. That's more, Suicide Jockeys is about guys in armored tanks and planes fighting monsters, and so it's more kind of straightforward. No volleyball in this one. And then the issue four variant cover is a Mr. T cereal variant, which is
That's awesome.
kind of fucking mind blowing. So you're gonna want to check that out.
Do you remember I think it was during New 52 when DC was doing like every month had a special variant cover theme, and one month was like what you're talking about. It was all movies.
Oh, was it? Okay.
So
I never saw him.
I want to pull it out and make it a wall book because it's phenomenal. But the Aquaman book that month was Free Willy.
Oh,
so it's
wow.
Aquaman holding the trident up with the Free Willy.
Yeah, with the killer whale jumping over him.
Yeah.
That's pretty exceptional. Yeah, sign me up for that.
So, okay, yeah. One last thing for you: where can people follow you online if they want to follow you further?
Yeah, I am on all forms of social media at Rylend Grant. It's RYLENDGRANT. I always spell it because it's not a real name. My parents kind of drunkenly arranged letters and saddled me with it, and so now I have to spell it for you. So, catch me. I guess primarily on Twitter and Instagram. But I also have a backer kit shop. If you go to thejump2.backerkit.com, the jump is one word and the number two, so thejump2.backerkit.com. And that's kind of a one-stop Rylend Grant shop. So you can find, the jump is on there, the Peacekeepers is on there in the wake of the Kickstarters, but also you'll find signed copies of Aberrant and Banjax. A lot of rare con variants there. There were issues that like the Gremlins cover was only available for like a couple of days at San Diego Comic-Con, and so I was able to like steal a cachet of those, and so it's kind of the only place you can get them. And so Yeah, One Stop Rylend Grant shop. So if you want to check out some of my stuff, that Backer Kit shop is a really good place to go, and it's like the only place right now to get an autograph from me. So if you care about that sort of thing, I don't. Obviously, like COVID has canceled the cons. Hopefully, we're back to it sooner rather than later. I know some people are doing it already, uh, I also have a 4-year-old at home and a job that kind of keeps me in Southern California. So I do all the Southern California cons. So you can catch me at San Diego, WonderCon, LA Comic Con, usually the Long Beach cons. But other than that, I don't get around too much. If they nominate me for a Ringo, I have to go to Baltimore. But other than that, I don't get out of LA too much. So yeah. So check me out there.
And as always, everybody, check out the show notes down below. I'll have a link to Rylend's Comixology page where you can get some of the books we talked about there, SourcePoint's website, and the Backer Kit page as well. So go check those books out. And Suicide Jockeys in comic shops right now. Ask your local comic shop to order you a copy because it is a phenomenal book. So, Rylend, thanks so much for spending time with me tonight.
It's fun.
Hopefully we'll do it again soon. And best of luck on the book moving forward.
Yeah, thanks so much, man. Thanks for having me. And thanks for listening.